Hello everyone! I've just realized that I never made a video on the Öland. The Öland, the tier 8 Tech 3 European destroyer, is actually quite a challenging ship to play. And considering I really love the Öland and I really love the Holland and I've featured them multiple times, I've now been grinding this European line on my Russian account, and I realized I actually never featured the Öland in a single video. So today's video is going to be a bit different. Namely, it's going to be 3 games that I played in a row, and as the title says, I got a Kraken in every single game. So it showcases a certain level of consistency. Even if maybe the individual games aren't that standout, it does highlight the playstyle, how I choose to play the Öland, and the success I generally have with playing this ship. Öland has its fair bit of weaknesses. First of all, I avoided going into B early on until I saw what the planes were doing. Once I realized the planes were going to strike something else, and the fact that the lightning was spotted elsewhere, I decided to push into B. The Öland with the concealment does have, or the concealment expert does have 5.8 km concealment, which is quite competitive. Keep in mind though that this is a 14, might be a 13 or 14 point captain. I have preventive maintenance, last stand, survivability expert, concealment expert, and adrenaline rush. And then at some point I got a 14th point and I spec'd incoming fire alert. So that's just all the captain points I have, because once again leveling a new captain for a new ship line, so that's generally how it goes. I mentioned Öland has its fair share of weaknesses. Well, the most important one is probably the fact that it has the lowest health pool of all tier 8 destroyers. It's 14.1k health base, so survivability expert buffs it to 16.9, which still isn't that impressive, but you do get a heal to make up for it. That doesn't mean that the ship is still easy to play though, because your base speed is 35 knots, which is stupidly slow for a destroyer, and you don't have access to any sort of smoke either. So anytime you get struck or you take these engagements, you're playing around with a low health pool and you're struggling to really actively disengage. So you really have to plan ahead what kind of engagements you take. Z31 pops up, I instantly start angling away. You see how I start kiting away. I don't want to get stuck in his hydro, taking the trade with him while he's doing that. He damaged Con very early, and then I broke his engine right after, so it looks like he actually doesn't have last stand, or maybe he's just holding on to his smoke until he's going to stop so he can actually secure the cap. Based on the way he's gliding, I'm suspecting this guy hasn't spec'd last stand. Oh, there goes, he actually damaged Con's, the engine. I'm trying to get some additional hits in. I'm hoping someone might, with some of these shells going in, might have actually broken his engine. I keep spamming shells in, hoping that I would get that engine disabled, because based on the way he was handling, it looked like that was a player who wasn't spec'd into last stand, which is incredibly risky, especially against Öland's strengths, which is namely the torpedo speed. The torps themselves, they don't actually hit that hard. They only do 10.7k alpha. I pick up the Z39 with the torpedoes. They only do 10.7k alpha, but they are quite fast, 76 knots, and you can spec them so they do 80 knots. Well, if you have enough captain points to get torpedo acceleration, you can get them even faster, but just the 500,000 module bumps the speed up to 80 knots. So they are quite fast, and they do reload quite quickly, but you only have 6 of them, and they do only 10.7k, so the actual alpha damage of your torpedo broadsides are generally really weak. You will struggle to devastate any sort of battleship with these things, because, well, a total of a bit over 60k minus torpedo protection or saturation, and you realize that the damage output isn't actually impressive. You note that every time one of these DDs are spotted or try to engage me, I instantly take the fight. And that's even though the Öland only has 2 turrets, 2x2, the reload is actually very good. And that gives the Öland quite good DPM for a tier 8 destroyer. So taking these fights with other tier 8 destroyers is generally something that you're quite willing to do. Every time I do take them, note that I always turn around though. I start kiting away. Not only does that give me the advantage, because if they push into me, they charge into my shells, whereas I'm kiting away from their shells, but it also makes it easier for me to disengage, as in this case, if I had pushed it into the lightning and he would have smoked up, I would have gotten killed because, well, I have no way of smoking up myself. So Öland is absolutely this kind of hit and run destroyer. You kind of push in using your good concealment, then when you start fighting something, you start angling away, you start cutting away, trying to disengage. Like in this case, I don't really want to shoot the Akatsuki yet, because I don't know what the lightning is doing. I want to close the distance a bit more, and I want to be prepared to angle away the second this happens. You see, as soon as I start shooting, I'm keeping an eye out on the minimap, I'm keeping an eye out for any incoming damage to see if the lightning is still around. But it looks like the lightning has bailed and completely disengaged, so in this case we keep chasing the Akatsuki and we keep trying to put pressure on him. At this point, most of this battle has basically fought in the center, DD versus DD, with very little input of basically anyone else. This is kind of common these days. For some reason, people, both on my team and, well, honestly, quite rarely enemies shoot DDs. My team especially, sometimes it really seems to hate shooting destroyers, considering how strong, like, destroyers seem to be Schrödinger's class. Battleship players will say that DDs are overpowered, but then when the DD is spotted, they will rather shoot someone else. So, I mean, if the class is so strong, why are you not shooting them? I have no idea. I shoot torpedoes ahead of the smoke, expecting the Akatsuki to try to disengage, which is exactly what he does, but my gunpowder actually kills him before my torpedoes can. Carrier joins the fray. He looks like he's actually going to commit to the strike, so I use a defensive AA to get rid of the planes as quickly as possible, because being constantly plane spotted with 7,000 health is not that enjoyable. Keep in mind that because I have Adrenaline Rush, I am saving that last heal, because it means that my torpedo reload and gun reload are faster as long as I don't use that last heal. In fact, I save it for until someone actually starts shooting me and there's a risk of dying. If there's multiple heals left, it's not worth doing it, but when there's only one heal left and you're not basically trying to blow the cooldown to get access to the next heal, there's no reason not to hold on to that healing potential. The Fusa looks like DC'd, I'm not sure what he is, so I drop torpedoes on him, and then I sail until the York is behind the island, and I start harassing this Kaga who gets stuck against my gas can, so obviously that's the target I want to go for. The torpedoes land and cause a double flood on the Fuso, while at the same time the island blocks me from the York, and I've closed the distance to allow to farm this Kaga. The torpedoes take down the Fuso, giving me a devastating with the flooding, and I gun down the Kaga, which gives me a double strike. At this point, the game is basically over, so I'm willing to play quite aggressive against this York. He's also in a really poor position because he's kind of crossfired between the Chapayev and the gas can. So at this point, I figure he will be going down basically no matter what. So I just start unloading on him with HE. He turns, looks like he actually wants to shoot me, so I switch to AP to use AP on that broadside. The AP pen isn't anything to celebrate about, but AP just deals more damage, and on broadside targets, generally your damage output goes up quite significantly. I pop speed boost and heal at this point. Obviously someone is shooting at me, so I do want to stay alive, and I accelerate juke back and forth to dodge most of his shots. I pick up a Confederate and the first Kraken. A Confederate devastating double strike Kraken. Note that the game was played at 14:12, the 7th of this month. So 14:12 was the game time. Keep that in mind because I will highlight those facts. I spent a lot of time just fighting the other DDs, just gunboating them, and that shows in the XP. No one on my team really got that much XP because I kind of hogged most of it fighting, gunning down all these DDs in the center and securing the objective for my team. The very next game, a tier 8 carrier, which kinda sucks, but even worse is Benson, Cossack, or Kisuki on the enemy team. Pure gunboats will outgun you, and more importantly, ships like Akizuki have a lot of health to spare, whereas ships like Cossack have that fast reloading smoke, hydro, which makes it hard to torpedo, and he outspots and outguns me. So when I go down to A, what I'm hoping is to face basically any DD except the Cossack, because if he's even half competent, that's going to be such a pain. And of course, in classic fashion, the Cossack is the ship that is sitting at A, and we have 2-3 BBs pushing this way, so it's not like I can just run away and abandon them. I have to play this foul flank. I push aggressive once he smokes up, because I know if he leaves the smoke, I should be able to catch him, and that's exactly what happens. I don't push close enough to get hydrated, but close enough that his concealment advantage doesn't save him from being detected as he disengages from the smoke. At this point, I'm really hoping that my team would put in some damage on him. The carrier tries to get some strikes in, and it looks like my team is trying to hit him, but they're not getting too much damage in. He's down to 7,000 from 18,000, and he's still not taking any additional damage. He's now down to 6.7k. The reason why I'm not very impressed by this is you gotta note that I've dealt 10,000 damage, and the Cossack lost about 11,000 damage. So that really highlights that all basically 4 ships on my team plus the carrier combined managed to do a total of 1,000 damage to him. Probably once again busier striking ships like the Budyoni, who's half HP, or other ships in the back, or just generally, I don't know what they were doing, but this is very common, and it makes Öland's life very hard, especially when fighting DDs that are just stronger. And to add to the fact, the Akatsuki pops up. I actually spot him, so that means he doesn't have concealment expert. So you see, I'm not accelerating full speed. In fact, I'm accelerating quite slowly. I want to stay undetected, but I do want to keep vision of him while pinging my team to start focusing him. So the idea here is, of course, to just keep him spotted so my team can unload on him. I keep pinging him to get my team to actually focus fire him, because this guy is basically throwing away a lot of ship health by playing far too aggressive. It doesn't quite end up being the kill I might have hoped for, but I angle away from the Cossack and I start engaging the Akatsuki as he's gliding behind the island, when I know that he's not really gonna get that much retaliation in. Any damage helps when dealing with a tanky ship like the Cossack. He ducks behind the island, and it looks like the Cossack was trying to shoot me, but once again, angling away, playing it safe, makes me not lose any health in that engagement at all. And the battleship goes down. I tried to drop some torps on the Kansas coming in behind him. I'd really love to see my team put some harder focus on these DDs so we could actually take them down. The Akatsuki still doesn't go down, and pushing up, I actually do get vision of the Cossack, but his fast reloading smoke is up once again. I do another couple of thousand damage to him. I'm hoping to see battleship volleys come into that basically static target, but no one actually bothers shooting him. In fact, I see volleys coming in on the Kansas pushing in. This is sadly very, very standard. People just don't want to shoot destroyers for some reason. The worst part is the Cossack fast smoke, and that DPM means that he trades extremely well back on me. As you could see, 2,000 volleys from those Cossack guns. So at this point I'm down to 5,000 health. And I'm starting to get a bit worried, because while I've been dealing with the Cossack and Akatsuki here, my team in the north should have had quite an easy time, but in fact both my tier 8 destroyers have managed to die up in the north. And B is also being contested. You can see a Flint has been there and contested, and is probably capturing B for their team right now. So we're about to be boxed in, and my team down at A haven't really managed to get much done. I've landed a fair few torps, I managed to secure the cap, but at this point I realize I just can't waste time trying to basically fight this Cossack anymore, because the team elsewhere is collapsing extremely hard. I tried to land some torps on the Kansas, but he should honestly just be a dead ship. He's pushing in broadside to our entire team. I would hope to see him die. The Lazo goes down in the north. We're 5 ships down, and the Cossack smokes up in the center of the cap. So he's still sticking around, and there's not really a whole lot I can do about that. I can't really blind fire him because there's planes flying around that might spot me. I don't know where the Akatsuki is, and I don't know where the Flint is either. So I decide to drop a few torps in the smoke, hoping that maybe his long duration Hydra is down, and basically start to plug the hole that is leaking elsewhere on the ship that is my team. I'm tempted to go straight up and torpedo the Queen Elizabeth, but I decide no, we need to play this safe, because if I die, this is basically a guaranteed loss. I don't know where the Flint is, he hasn't been detected in a while, so I decide to take the safer route. Normally, taking the safer route is a good idea. As it turns out, it's also in this case, because as I pull in behind this island, I get spotted by Hydro. The Flint has managed to sneak up all the way behind this island entirely undetected, because no one has been spotting anything. So I ping it repeatedly, I ping my carrier and I ping the position, and he does go there and he actually does find the Flint. The carrier goes in for some strikes on the Mars. I pop defensive AA to basically help him alleviate the damage he takes, because at this point we're down to 5 ships and I need all the ships we could possibly have. I go for some shots on the Flint at this point. I need to pick up this kill. He's so low, so just a few shots should be enough. I do one shot but not enough to get him, and I do pick up the kill right after. At this point, I have the option of just staying dark entirely. I drop torps on Queen Elizabeth, but seeing as his guns are pointed the other way, I'm hoping by shooting him I will tempt him into turning hard left to get his guns on me, and thus turn in front of those torpedoes that I've launched. It's a pretty common torpedo boat tactic. You launch torpedoes, and if the guy isn't going where you want to, you start shooting, and then he tries to turn his ship to get his guns on you, and in the process he hits a full broadside of torpedoes. Someone chunked him just before my torpedoes could land, so the damage wasn't quite that impressive, but at least I do pick up a second kill. Down south, I have a full HP in New Mexico against the Cossack and a Budyonny, plus a Shokaku helping, so I figure, okay, they should be able to handle this, and I go north to try to stop the oncoming horde. Friedrich gets spotted, Prince Eitel. I drop torps quickly. The reload is very fast, especially when you're this low HP. Once again, I'm saving the last heal for Adrenaline Rush. So I drop a fast set of torps on this Friedrich, and I do catch him with 3 of them, including a Flood. The Flood is important because he damage cons it right away, so now I know he is a potential kill. My carrier, for some reason, is using AP bombers to chase the Cossack. I honestly have no comment on what's going on there, but they seem to be really struggling getting anything done. The fast reloading torpedoes come up again, and I drop a set on the Prince Eitel Friedrich, predicting that he's going to push straight towards the objective to try to stop me from securing it. The Bliska pops up right next to him, and my guns are pointed completely the wrong way. Keep in mind, by the way, that Öland's Spectre is actually 360, so that allows you to do some moves that Östergötland and Holland cannot. He smokes up, pushing into the cap, but I instantly go for the shots. I land torpedoes on the Friedrich, who's flooding, but more importantly, I do go for the blind fire on this Bliska because I see how low he is, and by smoking up, they actually lose vision of me. So they have no vision, whereas I can clearly see him in return. And my blind fire picks up the Bliska, and at the same time, an Implak shows up. Now, Prince Eitel Friedrich is flooding heavily, which means that he's going to be heavily slowed down as well. So I don't mind taking the time to turn broadside, drop some torpedoes on Implak, and basically just allow the ship to flood. At this point, however, I wish my carrier would be chasing the Cossack, because the Cossack is most likely about to pop up in my face. You see where I'm pointing, where I'm looking, I'm expecting the Cossack to pop up at any moment, because that is really the only way he could have gone, and that's exactly where he is. If he's no longer contesting A, he's up here trying to help his team, but I quickly gun him down, and I damage con the fire, as well as use my heal finally. At this point, I'm just trying to disengage, because I expect that the Friedrich will be pushing through that smoke soon, as the cap is contested, so he has to be sitting inside the smoke. I'm completely out of heals and out of speed boost, but my torpedo prediction on the Implak is very good. Caracciolo actually tanks one of the shells, or one of the torpedoes, but I land multiple hits on the Implak, putting him so low that if my carrier wanted with his torpedo bombers, he could actually go kill that Implak, as he's only 18,000, so carrier doesn't really need to land many torpedoes to get a kill there. With no speed boost means that Friedrich catches up to me as I turn to torpedo him, but I play it cool. I don't start shooting, I just angle away and try to disengage as quickly as possible. All the battleships have shot at this point, so all I need to do is just keep sailing away, and once I clear 15.8, I will be undetected. Friedrich turns his ship to get more guns on me, and in the process also its torpedoes, which gives me high caliber and a permanent flood on the Friedrich. At this point, I'm really hoping that my team might be able to pull this through. All I need is my carrier to go finish off the Implak, that's almost dead, and for my full HP Budyonny to kill a full HP New Mexico to kill a Budyonny. It seems pretty easy. Carrier tries to drop the guy that is permanently flooding that I kill. don't really know what the plan there was, but I do pick up the Kraken. Sadly, of course, the Caracciola decides, surprisingly, not to push towards me because of the carrier harassment, but instead decides to sail down south. Meanwhile, which makes him evade all my torps, and torping a target that runs away is basically impossible. Meanwhile, Budionny actually manages to torp my New Mexico, and my carrier is still not killing the Implacable, who sends a pair of rocket planes to chase me. And of course, once rocket planes finally do spot me, defensive AA and Sector doesn't help me. He just strikes me out, and my team has no chance. This game was played 1436, once again on the 7th, so this was the game right after a Kraken. And almost as much base XP as their number 1, but this team was simply impossible to carry across the finish line. Simply impossible, honestly. There was nothing more I felt I could have done. The third game, straight in a row once again, is a full tier 8 game, and they do have some nasty ships like the Shokaku, Kid, Kiev, Loyang, 3 gunboats that all outgun me, and a Chapayev Cleveland, so 2 radar ships. I'm pushing up towards B, but I'm not too eager to charge into the cap yet. With ships like Chapayev and potential Kid Loyang sailing around, I decide to play it fairly cool. I just drop a set of early torps where I suspect the DD might be coming from, and I let my 2 Edinburghs push up a bit. Once the Edinburghs are close enough that I know I'll have some support, and the Loyang is spotted at another cap, I decide to push in and secure this objective. Planes come in, trying to strike my Edinburghs, but I pop defensive AA and reinforce the sector, so he eats a bunch of flak and the planes get shot down. In return, the Edinburghs help me by killing the Cleveland that I spot, and we kind of end up helping each other. Be secured, I go where I consider I'm needed the most, because once again, both my teammate DDs have already died. This is very common. Your DDs die like flies. So you note that my goal in these games is always to be where I think my team might need me the most, and on this flank the enemy has 2 destroyers and no DD of their own, so obviously this is the flank I'm gonna try to reinforce, especially since we have 3 BBs on this flank who really need scouting and help. I drop preemptive torps on the Kiev, and only after I've dropped the torps do I engage him in a gunfight. This means that, well, the Kiev does outgun me. If he focuses on gunning me, or basically shooting me, he might not pay attention to the torps, and if he's forced to evade the torps, he's gonna struggle to shoot me, so it kind of works hand in hand. He ends up trying to evade, turning right into my torpedoes, and the devastating strike picks up the Kiev for the first DD kill on their team. At this point, I decide to go up and scout for my lane in Kansas. I pinged Roma, asking him to help, since if I came all the way here, at least come and support me when I go fight this kid who kinda outguns and just out-tanks me and everything. The planes spot me as I try to close the distance, so I disengage, because I don't want to get caught dumpstered by the Kiev during plane spotting, or sorry, by the kid. He leaves the smoke, and I instantly, once again, start shooting him as much as I can, getting a bunch of damage in, and at this point it's only a single kid, which really shouldn't be much of an issue, especially with the carrier support. So I secure the cap and I look at the minimap, where does my team need me the most? And obviously looking at the minimap, the C flank is the weakness. They will be pushing through the C flank soon, and they might potentially box in my team. I ping, I'll let the landing know where the DD is, the carrier where he is, so the planes actually managed to find the kid, and then I move towards B to see if I can help my team with this incoming flood of potential enemies. I'm not too happy about my Edinburghs pushing into the enemy spawn instead of helping me defend B, but I mean, teammates do what teammates want. I drop preemptive torps on the Vladivostok, and I keep closing the distance, and the Loyang pops up. Note that the Loyang, I take the time to turn my guns and start turning my ship. I also slow down a fair bit, because in an open water fight, the Loyang isn't really that much of a threat, because I'm full HP and I still have my heal remaining. But the second he smokes up, obviously I start disengaging, especially because a Mogami pops up on the side. You don't want to fight Loyang during his smoke and hydra. You don't want to close the distance and give him all the advantages. You only want to fight him in basically even trades in the open water. That's when you have the largest advantage going for you. The Mogami tries to sneak by and go secure B, so I decide to leave the Loyang for now, since he's smoked up. I shouldn't be much of a threat, and see if I can pick up this Mogami who's trying to sneak in potentially farm the Roma or the island. By the looks of it, that looked like it was his plan. I am quite high on his belt since I know I can't pen his citadel, but in classic World of Warships fashion, the shells all land short in the water, because the aiming system really isn't that good in this game. Still, the AP is enough to pick him up. He gets a volley off because of some aiming bugs, but that's I use a heal to recover from it. Having saved health earlier on pays off now, and it doesn't really hurt me too much. I dodge his torpedoes, and at this point I start to close in with the Luoyang, because his smoke is either fading soon or he will be leaving the smoke soon, so I'm gonna see if I can potentially catch him trying to disengage, and that's exactly what happens. The Luoyang tries to run north away from his smoke, and of course I instantly engage. I don't want to play too aggressive because I don't want to get dumpstered by the Vladivostok around the island. I just slow down and I just keep farming, turning a fair bit of broadside, because the Luoyang is so focused on running away, it looks like he's actually going to ground right into the island. I aim right for his ship and the shells land on the island behind him, but that's fine. The next volleys look pretty good, and this Luoyang is basically dead. Killing the engine kind of seals the deal because there's no way he can disengage, and I gun him down. The short gun range of the ship kind of works in my favor, as I instantly go undetected. I shoot preemptive torpedoes since I think the Vladivostok is going to turn in because he wants to chase our Roma. And if you see, you can see that the Vladivostok is in fact turning in because he does want to chase the Roma, and he turns right into my set of torpedoes, eats 3 of them, and that is the 4th kill. Now, I'm wondering what the health pools on this Amagi and this North Carolina are, because it's going to be very hard to get a 3rd Kraken in a row. Amagi is full HP, and Amagi has an amazing torpedo belt. NC is also full HP, so I'll launch basically what is probably going to be one of the last sets of torpedoes this game, because my torpedo reload simply isn't fast enough, nor is the travel time. At this point, well, you're thinking, wait, there's 20 seconds remaining, my torpedoes do no damage to an Amagi who's full HP. How on earth could this possibly be a Kraken? Well, the Amagi, of course, detonates from the 2nd torpedo, and the RNG gods themselves decide that I shall be awarded with the 3rd Kraken in a row. You noted that this game was played at 15:02 on the same day, so this was literally 3 consecutive games while grinding the Öland, 3 Krakens in a row. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you guys next time.